Yolandi Boshoff is a legal advisor with Legal and Tax with a special focus on protecting children's rights. Now, the entire country is talking about children's rights after a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old were kidnapped in 2 separate hijacking incidents. Now, tragically, the 4-year-old lost his life after he was dragged behind the hijacked vehicle, and thankfully the 6-year-old made it home safely. Yolandi, talk us through how these children's rights were violated in these instances.
As we all would remember, in June we commemorated Child Protection Week, which has called on everybody to make provision or assist with the safe protection for the environment of our children. Now, the recent events have led to the constitutional rights of these 2 children have been affected. Now, in terms of the Children's Act, the children have constitutional rights which, amongst others, are the right of family care, to be cared for in a loving environment, if it's not by your own parents, by guardians or grandparents. Social services, which would be your economical, your education and health, and then the most important, which has now been affected here, is protection from maltreatment or abuse or harm. Now, in this case, the harm was the most prominent one. In both these instances, the perpetrators were the ones who affected the children, leaving us all horrified. And it again calls on communities to be aware, look around you what's going on, and be proactive.
Now, of course, in both these cases, the parents were also victims along with the children. But parents and communities have responsibilities to protecting the rights of our children. Can you talk us through these?
Definitely. It's like I said again, that the children have a constitutional right to be protected. So it's enshrined in our Constitution. It's an inherent right that they have. So parents, teachers, grandparents, community, neighbors, we all have an obligation towards the children to protect them. And the moment that you fail on that obligation, for instance, let's argue that the mom wasn't looking after the child. Anyone who sees the child being neglected must report it, either to a police officer, a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, in order for that child to be then assisted. In this instance, we said the perpetrators, it's out of the mother's hands. It's an unfortunate event that took place. It's horrific to the police. So we can't blame the parents in this instance. But it's the social responsibility again. Yes, we can't go educate our perpetrator because they don't want to learn and they don't want to be helped. But as a community, stand up and assist one another. Be aware. In this instance where the mom, I know she was visiting her mother with the kids 8:30 or 7:30 at night. Try and avoid instances like that if you can. Don't drive alone at night. If there's people walking on the street, don't open the gate, don't drive, or if you have to stop, drive around the block and then see where they've gone. Protect yourself, be vigilant.
It's completely understandable that the residents of Raja Park who lost this 4-year-old boy are completely up in arms. And they're saying that if government doesn't intervene and arrest the perpetrators, they're going to take the law into their own hands. Can you talk us through why this isn't a helpful response, or is it?
It definitely is problematic. Remember, as the lay of slang term, it's jungle justice now. And at all costs, we have to prevent it. I completely understand where they're coming from. I think all of us can understand where they're coming from. But the police are there. They've got a job to do, although we all feel they're not doing anything properly. At the end of the day, the moment you take the law into your own hands, you become just as guilty, ending up either with a charge of assault or even, worst case scenario, murder against yourself. You end up in jail. And at the end of the day, it's a vicious cycle that's going to continue, and it won't stop until enough education is out there for people to know how to exercise their rights and even know what their rights are.
The 6-year-old boy was thankfully returned to his mother after the hijackers dropped him off at a mall and more security took him to a shelter. Now, in this instance, was the correct procedure followed?
The moment you become aware of a child either being neglected or maltreated or abused or whatever the issue may be, there is a responsibility on you as the adult to report this abuse to a police officer, teacher, a doctor, or a nurse, any other responsible person, because they then take action on them. If you remember, I think last week in the news, the baby that was left in the car park and the security guard found him, he phoned the police. That's the steps you have to take. In order for the child to then immediately be removed to a place of safety, which can be the police station, a church, a shelter, even which constitute a place of safety. where there is someone who will look after their best interest. And that is what's paramount, is the best interest of it.
Yolandi, we've spoken a lot about adults helping to protect the rights of children, but how do we also teach our children about their inherent rights?
First thing, they always say charity starts at home. So I say teaching your children will start at home. You as the responsible parent or guardian of this child has to educate this child with regards to his constitutional rights that he's got, the difference between right and wrong, and what is wrong action by an adult, for argument's sake, who wants to abuse him, so that he knows that this is not the right thing. And then there's a secondary obligation: grandparents, aunts and uncles, teachers, churches, all for that purpose. I mean, teachers in school, social education, they all need to put that foundation there so that the children know what is the difference between right and wrong. And the moment that something does happen, where the child should be put and where he feels comfortable with, if it's his parents, obviously his parents, otherwise any other responsible person, being either, as previously stated, a police officer, doctor, a nurse, or a teacher, someone he trusts.
And finally, Yolandi, South Africa has very advanced laws for protecting the rights of children, but we can see every day that they aren't really implemented. So what more needs to be done to ensure that South African children are protected?
The laws in itself, we don't see a problem on. They set out the basics for us. I think the main thing with us, general society, as it is these days, we've been talking about it just this morning. The quote that I saw actually on Facebook, it says, "Not my monkey, not my circus, not my monkey," meaning I can turn a blind eye, and I think that's where the main problem comes in. Is people just don't care. We need to go back to the basics and need for our ignite and sustain neighborly love, especially towards our children, to protect them. So the general attitude of the public really needs some adjustment. That's in my opinion. And then obviously coming back to government, yes, strict enforcing of penalties. You see many guys getting out of bail and then they just go and do the same thing again. So on that instance, bail conditions may be more strictly enforced, and then also probably longer sentences. Everybody's calling on the death sentence to be brought back. I can't see that happening in the next 50 years because it's abolished. It's against your constitutional right now. And to change the constitution is going to be a heck of a fight.